Hi everyone, Helen here from Helen Kirkham Crafts, and today I have another Stix 2 bundle for a Stix 2 Halloween challenge. They've sent me some acetate, some glitter card in purple. They've also sent some green glitter paper. There is also some pearlescent black card, that's about 180 GSM, and the same with the orange card here. This is full colour card, the core is orange as well. I have glitter in a copper, and then black fabric spray as well. I've also added some elements that I had in my stash to finish off this project, to sort of make it a complete project using those dies, etc., with the papers and card they've sent me. I'm going to be creating a pop-up box card. So I'm going to be cutting my A4 piece of card at 10 3/4 inches and 5.5 inches. I will also put the measurements in the description below, but just to tell you, I'm cutting this down to 10 1/4 inches by 5.5 inches to create our pop-up box card. I love a pop-up box card because it's really easy to add lots of little details. And I mean, I'm making one for Halloween, but you could absolutely be creating these for lots of different seasons. Add flowers for the spring, beach items and things like that for summer, and so on. And then I'm going to score my pop-up box card. I'm going to be scoring it at 2.5 inches, 5 inches, 7.5 inches, and 10 inches. So that's 2.5 inches, 5 inches, 7.5 inches, and 10 inches. But I will make sure that I put all of these details in the description below. Once I've done that, I'm going to turn it on its side and I'm going to score at 2.5 inches. So that makes our centre. But you only go down the first 3 sections. So the end section, the 4th section, you don't do that. So you're going to have the score through the first 2 sections, but stop when you get to the 4th one. And then I just reinforced all the score lines, and now I'm going to cut down. You'll see I cut down to the centre on those 3, and then on the smaller one I'm going to cut down and cut a piece of it off so that you have like a little tab to create this sort of make sure that the box card sticks together. So all the way down the 3 score lines, and on the 4th one go down the sort of vertical and then across the horizontal as well to create a little tab. I also took my scissors and just snipped the corners off as well to give them a nice sort of curved edge. You don't have to do that, but I just sort of prefer it. I think it looks nicer. And there we have our pop-up box card. So they just stick together like this, and you just reinforce those folds, except obviously the 4th one, because that's our long bit at the top. Now what we need to do is we need to create the centre that's going to hold pieces. So you're going to take a piece of the waste orange that was left over, and you're going to cut it. Both need to be 3.5 in length. In terms of the width, that's sort of completely up to you. These are 3.25, but 2 of the pieces at 3.5 inches each. And again, just use the waste piece of card that you snipped off. That's a great use for it, and whatever sort of thickness that is, how the width is, use it for that, because that's going to go all the way down the box card, so no one's going to see it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to score at 1/2 inch one side and 1/2 inch the other, and I'm going to do that with the second one as well. So 1/2 inch one side and 1/2 inch the other. Again, remember just to reinforce those score lines. And you now have sort of 2 little sort of squared off C's, and they're going to go inside the pop-up box card. I'm just using red liner tape to create the box card, just because it makes it a little bit sturdy. Remember, the idea here is that you are going to fold it when you put it in your envelope. So this is going to be a movable piece. So just using that red liner tape for that makes it a bit easier. And then I'm going to place my little, I don't know what you'd call these, little shelves, if you will, that we're going to add pieces to. I'm using wet glue just so I can move it about a bit and have a bit of movement. Once you've got one in, just check it's still folding, and then just use the other one as a guide to line up the second one. You could definitely get a third in here if you wanted to have sort of 3 steps, but I'm just going with the 2. But there would definitely be room for a third sort of, again, shelf. Now, these are the dies I'm going to use for our Halloween theme. And I'm also going to cut some little frames because we're going to create a shaker piece to go on the front of our card. Whenever you're creating a fat frame with nested dies, just make sure that you use a little bit of tape, especially if you are multi-cutting them, because sometimes dies move when they go through a die cutting machine. And obviously if you're creating a frame, you need all of those pieces to be identical. So just use a little bit of washi tape and you can create all those frames. You see here that I'm using the black pearlescent to create our frame. It's got a really beautiful little shine to it, which kind of really adds to the sort of spookiness of the Halloween theme that we're going with. I've multi-cut because what we're going to do is we're going to create our shaker window, but with no shaker foam. The idea is that you're going to glue all those frames together, and that's where you create the shaker piece because it's thicker when they're all stuck together. I'm just using some distress oxides here. We're using Twisted Citron and the Dusty Concord, that's the purple one. And I'm just creating a sort of inky background here, blending the two colours together, starting with the purple, then working to the green, and then doing that sort of centerpiece to sort of blend them together to create a kind of spooky background that we're going to use on our card. Don't panic about doing blending. It's really easy. Just take your time to blend those two colours together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of water and splash that over the colours to create sort of bleached parts on the paper. Just let that paper bubble for a moment and then wipe it away. And then we're just going to cut this down to size. These squares are going to be 2 inches by 2 inches, but what I'm doing here is because I've blended quite a lot, I'm just selecting which part of the blend I like the most, which has got the good bleach pieces on. So don't think that you just have to go in and cut it at 2 inches by 2 inches. You can choose what you like and then cut the 2 inches by 2 inches afterwards. Now what we're going to do is we're going to glue together all of our black frames. I'm going to put wet glue just to put the frame in, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the acetate. When I attach the acetate, I'm actually going to use red liner tape, just because it's a little bit easier to use the red liner tape rather than the wet glue with the acetate. When you are putting the frames together, just use your fingers just to pinch those pieces together, just to make sure that they completely align. And this is a great reason for using that wet glue, particularly to put the card together, because you know you have a little bit of wiggle room. So once I have stuck all of the frames together, I'm going to stick the piece, the first piece, to the inked background that we created. I've left a few to stick the acetate to, which you'll see. And again, as I said before, I do use red liner tape for the acetate. So I'm just going to cut the acetate down to fit into the frame, making sure when you cut them that whatever frame base you've used, that it will stick all the way around and it's not too big that you'll see the acetate off the side. So once I've added the red liner tape to the square, I'm then going to add the acetate to that red liner tape. You just peel back the red liner tape and then stick the acetate on. And once I'm done that, I'm then going to attach the red liner tape to the acetate so I can stick that to the rest of the frame that we're going to use for our shaker card. Again, just putting the acetate all the way around the four sides of the acetate, making sure that they all join so none of the glitter kind of spills out of the side. And then once I've done that, I can remove all of the bits of the red liner tape. You see here, I'm just adding the fourth one so that it completely overlaps. And then we can start building our shaker window that's going to go on the front of our card, and it's going to use that beautiful copper glitter. This is a anti-static tool, so I'm just rubbing that over the acetate so that none of the glitter sticks to the acetate, because it has sort of a stick. And I also added it to the inked background so that doesn't grab the glitter as well, so that it moves around in the shaker window. So just use a piece of, you can get a little bag with an anti-static bag or an anti-static tool, and it just works really well to keep the glitter from being sort of static cling to the inked background or the acetate background. And now I'm just going to take that extra window and I'm going to attach it to the top of our other part of the window where the ink background is. And what we've done is we've created a shaker window with absolutely no shaker foam. And if you're like me and shaker foam just drives you mad, then this is a great way of doing that. And then I'm just going to glue it to the front of our box card. This is going to be our front tab. Again, just using some wet glue so I can move it around. And now what I want to do is create a matten layer for our inked background. So this is just a sort of 1/4 inch wider than the 2 by 2 inches for the ink. And these two pieces will go on the side of our pop-up box card. And then once the matten layer is done on both pieces of square, I'm going to stick them to each flap the side of our pop-up box card. And you can see how this card comes together quite easily, and it really sort of is very easy to decorate. You could also decorate elements underneath the flaps if you wanted to. There's a real sort of ability to add loads of fun things to the project when you use a pop-up box card. I've now got some of my dyed elements. I'm going to put the spider webs on either side. I'm just going to bring in some of that citron as well, just to kind of dirty the spider web up, give it a little bit more of a Halloween vibe. And again, like I say, you can add as many elements as you want. You could add lots of different things. You could even put some on the back if you wanted to, just to create whatever you want. But I'm just going with these smaller elements just to kind of create our sort of pop-up element. Now what I've got here is some pumpkins, 2 different type of pumpkins, and I've just stuck some black card to the back of the one that's got the eyes, just kind of make it a little bit spookier. And I'm going to use some foam pads just to lift that slightly off from the other pumpkin. And you'll see here that I've used the orange card, I've used that glitter paper as well, and then for the backs I've used that bit of pearlescent. So these pieces of card, when you get the bundle from Stix 2, it's really going to go a long way. And what I would recommend, especially if you're going with the bundle to create a project like this, keep all the little pieces, because you never know when they come in handy. Like I say, I just suddenly decided I wanted to put some black behind the eyes and the mouth of the pumpkin, and just having that scrap piece of black card helped a lot. Now what we've got is a piece of purple that we're going to stick behind the pop-up box card. But before I do that, I had a fun idea of using the paint, the sort of fabric paint, to create sort of a spooky dribble. Really simple and easy, but what you do have to do is, this does take a while to dry, so just pop it to one side. You could even actually do it first so that you could then have it drying while you were creating the rest of the project. I'm just going to cut some thin strips of acetate here, not too thick, because these are going to be, you saw earlier that I had cut some ghosts, and these are going to be sort of little wobblies that are going to go over the top. So again, creating something fun, even though it's a Halloween card, you know, it can still be cheeky, it can still be fun, and these little wobbly ghosts will really make it look sort of childlike. And again, cutesy if you want it to be that, but also you could dirty them up, add some different colours, make it a little bit more spooky. But I feel like having these elements is giving it a kind of cheeky, fun, maybe a birthday Halloween card as well. And then I'm just going to use, I've added some grey card of my own to make some little tombstones, and then a grass die that I'm going to use for that as well. And again, I've used some of that pearlescent card, almost like a shadow. And this is when we're going to start adding to those shelves in the centre of the card. So I'm just snipping this down so it fits perfectly. And we're going to create almost a graveyard in the centre of our pop-up box card. Remembering, you could have several shelves in there if you wanted to. I'm also sticking to the front there. So we almost get like a sort of depth, a look in view of what we're creating. And then I'm just going to stick the tombstones in within the grass to, as I said, to create sort of a graveyard look. But yeah, I really enjoyed sort of doing this project, using the different elements that came in the kit. And I found it came together really easily. Once I saw the papers that I had, once I saw the bundle, that's where the idea came into my head, especially, like I said before, having that full piece of orange card that can create the full box, pop-up box card. So again, I'm just using some wet glue to add those little tombstones into the centre. I said wet glue, I didn't mean wet glue. I'm using red liner tape, I meant, because obviously it's a sticky up part. And again, checking that this is still going to fold down. And it's a worthwhile idea to check that the elements, as you add each different element, that the box card will still close. And then I'm going to add our little wiggly acetate ghosts to the back of my now dry black dribble. This is going to go into the back of the card. What's lovely as well is we're having elements, but because I haven't put anything on the back of the longer piece, this will be where I would write my message to whoever I was sending this card to. So I'm just going to slip this down the back of our card, making sure not to squelch or push any of the nice dribble. And then I am adding our bats to finish off the element. Just a nice little spooky touch. Again, the bats could have gone on to acetate as well, but I kind of like the idea of the ghosts almost coming out of the tombstones late at night, somewhere on Halloween. And then what I've got is I check again that everything folds down, even now I've got all these different elements on. It's just worthwhile to do that as you're going. And then I'm just going to add a quick little sentiment to the front of our card. I'm going to stick it over the shaker element, but not cover the shaker element, but just have it there on top as our front sentiment piece. Little sentiments like these are actually quite fun. You can snip into them. You can get these from lots of different companies, but you can just snip into them and kind of build up an almost junk journal sentiment look. And that's what I'm doing here, just playing around, deciding where I want it on the front of my card. And again, all my cards, when I'm creating, even though I have an idea in my head, they come together quite organically, just from what I'm looking at. I knew what pieces I wanted to use, but when I started, I didn't exactly know where I wanted them to go. But that's the fun of crafting, is that you can move bits around, have a look where it looks. You don't need to stick until you're completely happy with where it's going to be placed. It's really been fun using this bundle. Again, a great challenge, only using a certain amount of elements and only adding a certain amount of elements to my project. And I really love what I've come up with. I hope that you do as well. And I really hope that you create something similar for Halloween. If you're interested in any of these products, you can go to the Stix 2 website and you can also get the Halloween bundle and lots more. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.